Where's the quorum, man? Let's see. Two 2017. Happy New Year to everybody. First, I'd like to take roll call. Jackie Cooper,
Here.
Richard Davila,
Here.
Gary Hahn,
Here.
Jesse Rangel,
Here.
Amy Trost,
Here.
and Ben Norris, myself. Okay, I'd like to certify that we have a quorum. We'll go to item C, the approval of the minutes from meeting August 17th, 2016. About a few minutes, take a look at those.
Mr. Chairman, Richard Davila, I move to accept the minutes from the August 17th, 2016 meeting as presented.
Do I have a second?
Make a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, who seconded that motion? Okay,
Jesse
thank you.
Rangel.
Thank you, sir.
We'll now move to item D, public comment. If there's anybody signed up for any public comment? Okay, there is none. We'll move to item E, staff report. First report would be from the executive office.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. My name is George Ferry. I'm the Director of the Compliance Division. I'll be making the executive staff report, and I'll let you know why Mr. Francis is not here in a moment. But right now, you'll have to just remain on the edge of your seat wondering why he's not here. So, the first item on the agenda under Executive Office is overview of TDLR and Executive Office operations, restructuring, and personnel changes. So if you recall, harken back to our last meeting in August, I told you that our longtime Executive Director, William Kuntz, had retired as of August 31st of 2016, and that Brian Francis, who was our Deputy Executive Director, is now our Executive Director appointed by the Commission. So that left some vacancies for Mr. Francis to fill, and a possibility, an opportunity for some reorganization and beefing up the executive office as we continue to grow here at TDLR. So part of that was hiring a new deputy director to replace himself, and hiring a new chief of staff who is sitting next to me. I'll introduce him here in a second. So I'll start with Mr. Voinis. So Nick Voinis is our new chief of staff, and he has responsibility for customer service, strategic communication, and government relations, something he has a great deal of experience in over the years. And I'm going to let Nick say hello here, but I'll give you a little background. First of all, and most important, he is a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. Thank you. Managed to supervise the department's media relations, marketing, game day productions, really oversaw a lot of a lot of state and governmental affairs in relating to the Big 12. Prior to that, Nick was the Director of Media Relations for Public Strategies and has extensive experience as a communications director for Texas government leadership and political campaigns. So he comes to us as a very, very experienced and very qualified individual for what we're asking him to do here. So Nick, would you like to say good morning?
Sure. Good morning. Thank you, George, for those comments. It's great to be here, my first advisory meeting, so look forward to many, many more, and look forward to getting to know you guys a lot better and helping in any way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So no pressure, but Nick is responsible for such items as overseeing the operations of the staff that take care of the advisory boards too. So, you know, he's here to find out what he got himself into. Also, we have a new deputy director, Carla James. Carla also has many years of experience in state government. She comes to us from the Comptroller's office and previously had been served as a deputy securities commissioner and was the executive director of the Texas Incentive and Productivity Commission in the past. She too is a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. Not that I'm going to emphasize that at all, but so anyway, you started in the beginning of December? Was it
December 15th.
December 15th. So they're still kind of getting their sea legs under them, but obviously there's a lot to learn, a lot going on already that I'll touch on here. Most importantly, I guess, right now for us is the legislative session. So the legislative session started yesterday, although they've been filing bills, pre-filing bills since the middle of November 2016. There's something, last time I checked, there was about almost 1,300 bills that have been filed so far, and it's early in the game. There's usually that many or more that are filed just on the last day of bill filing. So the committee hearings have not started yet. They haven't appointed the committees yet. That has to happen has to be done by the Lieutenant Governor and by the Speaker of the House. So once those committees are appointed, they usually start having committee meetings in March or something like that, and we'll be over at the Capitol quite a bit at that point. We're already seeing bills, though, relating to some of our programs here, and we will keep you posted. In the past, in the last session, we actually posted bills that related to our agency on our website, so you'll be able to see those if you want to track them. What we usually do is post the bill and then put a link to the Texas Legislature online website so you can kind of track the progress of the bill yourself if that's something you want to stay up late at night and look at the bills that are being filed and all that good stuff. We are actually today, the reason Mr. Francis is not here today, I'm going to reveal the big secret here, is no secret. There's a Sunset Commission hearing this afternoon, starting around noontime, I think, or maybe, and we're preparing for that. There will be some decisions related on some recommendations from the Sunset staff that related to other health profession programs. So we're anxious to see what their final recommendation is. Sunset bills are initiated kind of on the recommendation of the Sunset Commission. So whatever recommendation comes out of the Sunset Commission then has to be turned into a bill, which then has to go through both the Senate and the House. And so we'll see what happens. Whatever decision gets made today may or may not be exactly what ends up being passed by the legislature. Now, you've got a document in your materials that you should have actually received a copy of, and it's an implementation report that we're required to by Senate Bill 202, which is the bill that transferred the 13 programs to us. We are required every December 1st until 2020, I believe, to give a report about our success, what we've been doing as far as implementation of the programs. That should be in your materials. The big items, you know, the report, and by the way, the report is actually on our website too. If you go to our homepage and scroll down to agency reports, you'll see, when you click on agency reports and go down to the bottom of that page, you will see this report on our website. So if you want to pass it on to someone, this is basically a description of what's been done for the implementation of the 7 Phase 1 programs, of which this program is one, and talks about, you know, all the efforts we've made as far as implementation, consolidation, the consolidation team, which continues to meet, by the way. So the consolidation team is is wrapping up the phase one to make sure there's no loose ends, anything we need to look at before it's completely turned over to the staff here. But they're also ramping up on the phase two of the program, the transfer of programs, the next 6. Now, we've actually started some, because none of those programs at this point have any kind of an advisory board, we instead did public forums. Last week, we went out to Arlington, Austin, and Houston and asked those who showed up. We invited all the licensees. We had a pretty good turnout, 35 to 50 people, and we did 2 in each location, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. But we asked 4 questions that we asked during our strategic planning process to give us some idea of what the issues might be and what we need to be concerned about in the transfer of those other programs. So the 4 questions were, what are we doing well? What can we do better? If you could be king or queen for the day, what one item in rule or statute would you change? And then what do you foresee in the next 5 years changing? Particularly changes to your profession or whatever, or how the profession's administered, or technology in your profession, those sorts of things. So we've gathered that information and we'll be posting it for those 6 programs. And I believe, I did want to mention too, that if you look at the document, the implementation document, you'll see the transition plan that we signed back in April. An agreement between TDLR and Department of State Health Services that kind of laid out how we were going to do the transition, and that document remains as kind of a guide, a roadmap for us that we use to flesh out a lot of the details that we have to look at on the transition. So that, I believe, is what I have for y'all as far as the executive report. Do you have any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we'll hear from General Counsel's office.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Advisory Board. I'm Brad Bowman. I'm the General Counsel. And this morning I wanted to update you on a couple of rule petitions that were filed with the agency and how the agency responded to those petitions. And you should have in your materials all of the materials that we have on that, the petitions that were filed, as well as a lot of supporting documentations that were sent in with those petitions, and then the agency's response, the letters that the agency sent in response to those petitions. The Administrative Procedure Act is the law that governs state agency rulemaking, the procedure for filing rules and gathering public comments before you adopt rules, all of that. And there's also a provision in there for any interested person to file a petition with the agency for adoption of a rule. And then the agency has 60 days to respond to that petition. We also have a rule that specifies how you go about doing that. You have to tell us the specific changes that you want to see, underlines and strikeouts in the rule, so we know the specific language that's being proposed. There are 2 petitions filed here, one dealing with the audiometric testing and essentially recommending that be a waivable requirement, and then the other recommending folding into the Code of Ethics some other law that has to do with infection control procedures for certain infectious diseases. So we looked at those petitions. We did a lot of research. Wendy Pello in our office did a lot of research on this. We worked with the compliance division, the subject matter experts there, and also with our executive office in formulating a response to this. The timing of this was such that we did not have an advisory board meeting during that 60-day window that we had to rule on the petitions. If we'd had that, I think we would have certainly brought this to the advisory board to get your input and your recommendation on it also. But as you can see, and I won't go into detail on all of the reasons for this, but the bottom line is we did deny the petitions. So within that 60-day window, the agency either has to deny the petition or initiate the rulemaking process. We have to start that formal rulemaking process. And our determination on that was to deny the petitions based on the specific recommendations here, we didn't feel that there was a need to go forward with rulemaking at this time. And our letters kind of set out all of the reasons for that. I'm available to answer any questions that you might have on this. I also want to, if you want me to go into more detail on that, I certainly can. I also wanted to offer to you that we've ruled on these petitions. However, if there are any issues here that the board feels like you need to discuss as a group, we can certainly put that on an agenda for a future meeting. Also, you have work groups that may be able to delve into any issues that the board might see here that you might need to take forward. So with that, I will just open it up to if you have any questions. But we just wanted to update you and make you aware that this issue had come forward.
Jesse Rangel. Mr. Bowman, the petition that he wanted, I guess, passed or want us to look at was really wordy. There was a lot to it. Is there something in that if he wanted to, meaning Mr. Jones, if he wanted to come back and do this all over again, could he pick out certain things to reduce that petition, or just?
Well, it's certainly, I don't have any specific recommendation on that. It's certainly, there's no bar to filing another petition that might have other elements, and certainly we did set out in the letters kind of our take on the proposal that was made here, so that might be some guidance for him if he wanted to file another petition. But there's no bar on filing another petition if there's another proposal that comes out of that.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to, now we'll hear from Compliance Division.
Good morning. I'm Katie Bryce with the Compliance Health Professions Division. As you know, the Hearing Instrument Fitters and Dispensers program transferred from DSHS to TDLR on October 3rd. Compliance Division staff went and worked with customer service the first week to help ensure questions were answered and just to help with a smooth transition. Personnel updates, Yvonne Feinleib and I started September 1st, and we added 3 more team members, Heather Muir, Stuart Myrick, and Mary Hoffman from DSHS. They all started mid-October. We have been engaging in public outreach over the past few months, and we conducted several phone calls with stakeholder groups and associations. We spoke with Scott Pospisil with THAA several times regarding this program, and the feedback his members have given is that the transition has gone smoothly. We remain focused on this program, and we are also starting to prepare for the transition of the next 6 programs November 1st, 2017. Do you all have any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we'll hear from Enforcement Division.
Good morning. My name is John Mellock, and I'm one of the prosecutors with the Enforcement Division. Typically, what you're going to see in this report going forward is I'm going to give you kind of some key statistics that have been going on in the Enforcement Division for this program. I'm also going to touch on some cases that have come to a final order, whether it be an agreed order, default order, commission order, and give you some of the background and the details of what those orders were. Also, we'll talk about some different projects, outreach that we've been doing with the enforcement staff. So today, as you can see in the report, we've got a couple of projects that have been ongoing, one of which was the criminal conviction guidelines, which were published in the Texas Register and also on our department website starting July 29th of 2016. Also, next week we'll be having the enforcement work group come and speak to the enforcement division staff to kind of talk about some of the day-to-day issues, such as description of the services provided by the licenses of this program, the settings in which these interactions take place, tools and techniques used by the profession. Basically, we want to get kind of a, a sense of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis and the things and the interactions that you have with clients and customers, so that when issues do arise, that we kind of have an understanding of what we need to do as an enforcement staff to come to some kind of resolution, whether it be an enforcement action or to maybe get the parties together to see if we can get that resolved. Also, we're going to start talking about the penalty matrix. From my standpoint as a prosecutor, it's kind of my guiding principle of when a case comes to a situation where we have to charge a violation. So I am bound by whatever the penalty matrix says. If it's a Class A violation, I can only charge X amount of dollars for this type of violation, Class B, Class C, and so on. And so with this enforcement worker, we're going to kind of pick you guys' brains to see what is, in y'all's opinion, a very serious violation, and what's maybe something of a clerical, maybe more of a slap on the wrist kind of issue, so that we can get that going. And once we get the full penalty matrix developed, we're going to bring that back to the full advisory board for you guys to review and talk about and hash out, and then we'll get a final work product that we'll send up to our commission for their final adoption, and that will also be published on our website. Talking about the statistics, the final thing that I'd like to talk to you about today is we'll be looking at some statistics for this program and TDLR as a whole. And what you can see in the report is that we've opened 9 cases and resolved 9 cases. Now, that doesn't mean that we've closed all those 9 cases. What that means is that when we took you guys over in October, we have now opened 9 new cases that have been filed as of October 3rd. We also inherited some cases coming over from the Department of State Health Services. So we kind of reviewed all those cases to kind of see what they need to be, whether or not they need to be closed, whether or not they need to be moved on, had their hearings been requested. So it looks a little bit different, but it's not quite, we've closed every case that's come over so far. We still have some cases that are going through our process. With those cases that we've resolved, we've yet to assess any penalties or obviously collect any dollar amounts, mainly because we've closed all those cases and we haven't gotten to that point. Plus, we need the penalty matrix to kind of move us along to see what we can charge and what things will be going forward. With TDLR as a whole, you can see during this fiscal year, we've opened 3,000 cases and closed 2,800 so far. And a case being resolved can either be a closure or an order of some kind, whether it be a commission, default, or agreed order. As you can see, of those 2,800, almost 600 of those were of the agreed order types, where this fiscal year we've assessed about $1.5 million and collected about $500,000. That's what I have for you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to answer.
Richard Davila, I have a question on TDLR penalties collected versus assessed.
Mhm.
This 35% collection rate, is that pretty standard, or is it normally higher than that?
It typically probably runs somewhere in that neighborhood, because what we have is obviously the agreed orders are the ones where the respondent has come to the table and are willing to pay. We offer payment plans, so sometimes it's, if it's a $2,000 penalty and they want to pay it over the course of a year, they may be making, $250 payments, $200 payments, whatever the case may be. So this figure is as of November, so if someone has a payment plan that goes beyond that date, obviously we haven't collected all that. A lot of our orders do go to a default order where the respondent hasn't come to the table, they've dropped off the face of the map, or they've just neglected or frankly just don't want to deal with us. And so we might assess a $2,000 penalty and we just haven't collected it. So that's why there's sometimes a disparity between those two numbers.
And as a follow-up question, on the cases that have been closed for fitters and dispensers, are you going to wait until there's a penalty matrix to possibly assess a penalty in dollars to those cases, or are they?
No, there is a statute. The statute does provide what the max penalty is at this point. We haven't gotten to that, but if it comes to the point where we need to issue an NOAV, we're going to have to follow whatever the statute says.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Rangel, question. If they're assessed a penalty, a fine, and they haven't made arrangements, or they had made arrangements to pay the fine, do they stop fitting and dispensing until that fine is paid, or they continue to
No, no. The only time that a situation like that would occur is if we had taken some additional license sanctions, such as either a suspension or a revocation. But if we just issue an administrative penalty and that was it, they can still continue going on about being a fitter dispenser. If they do stop making the payments, let's say it's a $1,000, fine, and they've made 2 of the payments, but they failed to do the other 2. What we would do in the enforcement at that point is we'll put a hold on their license, so that the next time that they go to renew their license, they won't be able to renew the license unless they pay that remaining balance.
Okay, thank you.
Have any other questions?
All right,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This is George Ferry. Just so we don't leave anybody out, could I ask you to go back and pick up the Education and Examination Division's report for me, sir? Call them up to the table to speak.
Say that again?
The Education Examination Division still hasn't given their report yet, sir.
Okay,
And I
I
think they were-
apologize. Where
No.
was Katie? Compliance, okay, my apologies.
Yes, no, not a problem, not a problem.
Thanks. All right, we'll hear from Education and Examination Division. Rebecca.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Advisory Board members. Happy New Year. Welcome to the start of a wonderful year for us here. I just wanted to give a few updates. I'd also like to thank you for your hard work in preparing for the January 21st administration of our practical examination. We understand there are some issues with getting folks scheduled, so we are working on adding an additional date to kind of be right in the middle between the date that we have for January and the one that we have in May, to kind of alleviate for some of those folks that are a little stressed. With that being said, we also want to put out a public call for anyone that has ever proctored this exam to please get in contact with us, email customer service. They will forward it to the Education and Examination Division. We need your help. That will be beneficial to your industry to get more people scheduled, because we'll have more proctors to rate the examination. And it would benefit the industry tremendously, and we can even perhaps move it to not just 3 times a year, but maybe, once a month at some of our locations that have the availability to offer that for folks, so that there isn't such a long wait. I think it'll be a tremendous service to the industry. At this time, we have, I don't have it attached to your report, but I just wanted to give you, we have 2 new continuing education providers that have been approved, and 64 courses that were approved by our division since October 3rd. And that is all I have for my report.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Leonard Rivas with the Licensing Division.
All right.
I provided you with the number of new licenses and renewals issued for the month of October and November, and then also with the total population of licensees: 629 fitter and dispensers, 96 temporary training permits, and 55 apprentice permits.
What was the number of apprentices?
Apprentice, 55.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Any other questions? Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move to item F, update from work groups and any possible recommendations. Enforcement work group? No update?
We are, Richard Davila, the enforcement work group will be meeting next week to discuss the, what we do on a day-to-day basis. We'll be talking about penalty matrix, and we should have something to bring to the advisory board at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll hear from licensing work group. Anybody? Haven't met yet. And education examination, we heard from Rebecca. And standard of care work group. Anything? Okay. All right, now we'll move to item G, recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting.
So, Mr. Chair, obviously, we'll have all the items that were on this one. You'll have staff reports, you'll have the work group reports, and then any recommendations y'all have now or between now and the next agenda is prepared for the next meeting. So you might want to poll your members to see if they have anything they would like to see added as an agenda item in the next meeting.
Okay. Are there any agenda items anybody like to propose for next meeting?
Mr. Chairman, Richard Davila, if we have a, something to propose for the next meeting, can we email that topic to you, or do we need to email it to?
To Tamla.
Got it.
Advisory boards.
Advisory boards.
Do it. Thank you.
Advisory board's email address, yes.
All right, item H, discussion of dates, time, location of next board meeting.
So I don't think, with the session going on, probably not and since there's nothing that I'm aware of as far as rule changes that have to happen right away,
Okay.
probably wait until July maybe. We'll also find out, by that time, we'll know what came out of the legislative session, and we may have, depending on what that is, we may have to start talking about some rule changes. So, first of all, do you like this day of the week? Wednesday is good for y'all?
It's good for me. Yep,
And 10 o'clock, good time?
10 o'clock's good.
Now, we don't have to set a meeting date right now. We could poll you later, you know,
Send out an email.
as we get down the road here, and see who.
Makes no difference to me.
Yeah.
You okay
No,
with
I
that?
think that'd be good.
Okay.
Yep. Everybody agree?
Yep.
Very good.
All right, so you will be hearing from us. We won't forget you. Don't
Okay,
worry.
I appreciate it. All right, that will adjourn our meeting.